Today we're going to be testing two air conditioners that I thought had spoiled, but perhaps I was incorrect. The first one is this Fetters 5K machine. Let's do this on the tripod to avoid catastrophe. This is, I believe this is a 5000 BTU model. It's a 5400. Model number AUP05F2K. 16 ounces of 22. From 1989. So I used this in the kitchen the first summer I moved in here, and it worked really well. And then I moved it into the computer room towards the end of the year, and it didn't seem like it was working quite as well anymore. And then when I took it out last year in the spring, it seemed like there was no gas in it. So the context of this is Kevin had stopped by and he likes these machines, so he wanted to test it out just to put a second set of eyes on it. And it magically started working again, which I don't understand. Now granted, he tested it in the 60-degree basement, so I'm not fully convinced that it's working properly, but when he shut it off there was definitely gas in there. So it's possible that maybe I was just too impatient when I tested it the first time. You know, as we saw with that General Electric 5000 by Samsung, that thing seems to take 10 or 15 minutes to build the initial pressure after sitting all winter, and then it works fine. Maybe as these age, this is the way they're going to start operating. I don't know. Maybe the vane is starting to wear down and it needs oil in there to coat the little circular piece, whatever the heck it's called, and make a better seal. I don't know. I don't know what the reasoning is, but it seems like it takes some time before it really starts pumping. So we're going to test this and see. With 120.5 volts in the nose, we'll watch the amps. Should climb if it's working properly. It's about 73 degrees today, which is about as cold as these things are really meant to run. What you get below 70, 72 degrees, you can get ice in a perfectly good working system. So it's not super hot out, not a great test, but if it goes back cold and starts pulling a lot of moisture because it is high humidity, then maybe everything is copacetic. So let's go ahead and start it up. This has a continuous run on the thermostat here, which is engaged. So let's go to low fan. And so we know that the fan is taking 0.8 amps. Now it already feels cold just because I just took this out of the basement. So let me get the thing set up for temperature here. And we're gonna watch the output. Now keep in mind with these machines, I find that these typically operate more on high volume of air versus very cold temperatures. So in the 73 degrees, we might only see 55 coming out of this, and I don't think that that's going to be problematic. So our ambient temperature is, according to this, it's only about 70. It feels more than that, but I guess it's just because it's so humid. The temperature thing inside was reading 73. So I'm going to go ahead and stick this in here. Come on. Okay, and you can see it's going down a couple degrees just because the coil is already cold from sitting inside. Here we go to cool. Where? The compressor's on the other side. there's a hissing sound, which is normal upon startup. But it's not going away. So to me that sounds like air going through there. And there's that weird noise it was making. But I remember it doing that even when it was working properly. So we're at 2.6 amps and not climbing. Okay, now see the sound just changed. Now I think it's working. And there it goes. Now it's climbing. So something has changed about this where it takes quite a long time to start operating. And I don't understand what that sound is. It's like it's some kind of a 60 hertz cycle sound, which is weird. But it is cooling. You can see our temperature is going down. So let's give it some time. Now, it might take a few minutes because it's rotary, so it might take some time to build the pressure. It also needs to be cleaned. I've never cleaned this. I just put it in service because I needed a cooling immediately. It doesn't really feel that cold because it's not. It's only a few degrees lower, but let's give it some time. That weird sound just went away. It's a little chattery, but it generally sounds pretty healthy. Power draw is climbing now. We're up to 3.18 amps, 3.21 amps. Alright, well, I'm going to let this sit here and we'll come back in a little while and see how it's working. It's been running for about 15 minutes now. All of the strange noises went away and it sounds pretty normal now. The power draw went up to 4.19 amps. It's allowed to draw up to 6, so under a pretty much no load condition, I think that's reasonable. Temperature has gone down to 55. It's allegedly 74 degrees out right now, so we're going to look for about 54. As I said earlier, these don't really operate on cold temperatures, they operate more off of high airflow. So to get 56, that's a delta 18, I think that's perfectly reasonable. And the best telltale sign is, do we have a sweaty return? We have a sweaty return. So, I think all is well here, and I was just getting a little too impatient. In fact, the power draw is still climbing, so I think all is well with this one. And it does need to be cleaned, but I've never cleaned the coils. It feels nice and cold now. This is what I would expect from this. So, I was wrong. It's working perfectly fine. Just takes a minute to get going. It wasn't like that when I first got it, but who knows, maybe it had been used recently. Yeah, the coil is pretty dirty and it definitely needs a good clean out. You can hear the gas, it's working properly. So that's great news on that front. This can go back into service after we clean it. So the next one which is another machine I happen to really like, is this Amana Cool Zone. So this was a curbside pickup. It was tossed because the thermostat had failed, or at least when I picked it up it wouldn't run because the thermostat had failed. So it seems to work properly last year, but not quite as much as I would have expected. It seemed like it just wasn't cooling all that well. But I was also using it in a big room, so who knows. Let's go ahead and turn this thing on and see what happens. And this one also charged up and worked fine in the 60-degree basement when Kevin turned it on. So let's see what it wants to do out here. Now the door's kind of in the way, but oh well. These are really nice, quiet machines. I like these quite a bit. That's nice. Take this off so we can look at the coil. Actually, that can just stay off. Okay. That's the high fan, the low fan, and this is actually out of range from being downstairs. It should warm up in just a few minutes. In fact, while we're waiting for that, I'm going to try to move this over so I can shut the door so that bugs don't go in the garage like one just did. That did not sound very good, but sometimes that's the case. So we're starting with 2.7 amps. Let's see where it goes. Something's rattling down here. Is it just this? No, it's something else. Well, that's easy to fix. We'll deal with that, whatever that is. This is the 5P2MY air conditioner. It's allowed to pull 5.2 amps. So far the sound has not changed and it's still at 2.66, 2.63. Okay, the sound just changed, and see now it just started pumping. Watch the power draw go up. It's building pressure now. So something I think is going on with these things as they age, and I wonder if I really think it has something to do with oil, and maybe the oil just needs to take some time to work its way through the system before that circular piece inside the compressor makes a good seal. What the heck is that thing called? I don't remember. So the pressure is building very slowly. It's not really cooling much yet. No heat coming out the back. But the pressure is building, so I'm going to shut the camera off for a minute, give it some time. And we'll come back in about 15-20 minutes and see what it's doing. Making some weird sounds now. Starting to cool. Power's still going up. At this point we have ice on the bottom rung, ice forming on the second rung, and that's it. Nothing cooler past that. So this is kind of behaving like it's low. We are teetering on the outdoor temperature if it really is 70, where it could ice up at a normal operation. So if the whole thing ices up, then I think it's fine. But if it stops like this, then we've got trouble. So well, let's continue to give it some more time and see what'll happen. It's been about 15 minutes of operation. The power has gone up to 3.86. And it's only allowed, I think we said 5.2? Yeah, only allowed 5.2. So for a no load condition, that's a pretty reasonable power draw. The temperature is 54, 55. It feels nice and cold. It feels correct. The frost has gone away, and all the loops are sweating. So I think we're good here. I don't see a sweaty return quite yet, but we will soon. You know, if the last loop is sweaty, then eventually this will be as well. This one actually has a factory drain hole installed, but it has a stinking plug put in it. It's still in pretty good shape. So we're going to call this working. Power draw is still going up. Let's go ahead and cut this off. Oh, my mistake. There's one more loop. Thought that was the top. Well, it'll get there. I think this is working properly. So, there we have it. 2 conditioners that I thought were out of charge, but really were just fine, and just wanted to take their time getting going. So, I'm glad we'll be able to have these in service again this year. Just a quick addendum to this. I turned it back on and I put the filter and the cover back in place, and within a couple of minutes we got sweaty suction. I think the problem was too much airflow without the cover in place, because that cover does block a lot of airflow. So now, running the way it's supposed to, because of course it's not meant to run without the cover on, running with the cover in place, it checks out 100%.